Xena and her friends have been known to die and resurrect a number of times, and as the title of this video already explains, one of her deaths ended because of a resurrection at the hand of Cthulhu. But, of course, that's only the beginning of this story. The real drama is about how this resurrected Xena was nothing like her real self. She was vile, evil, and dark. So in this video, we'll explore the 4-issue miniseries that tells the origins of Dark Xena. Let's begin, shall we? Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Issue 1. After the events of Xena, Warrior Princess, and before the events of the Contest of Pantheons, our wonderful heroine was kinda dead. Gabrielle put her to rest, but was not gonna just sit back and let Xena remain so very dead. So like any self-respecting friend from a fantastical world filled with swords and sorcery, Gabrielle set on a journey to bring her friend back no matter the cost. Her journey would take her many months across vast oceans and continents, into unknown lands, and ultimately into realms beyond legend. There were places that people had forgotten or perhaps never believed existed at all. Places even the gods whispered about. The particulars of Gabrielle's odyssey would be full volumes, but that story is not our story. Eventually, she reached where the Old Ones hibernated, waiting at the end of days. In this long-forgotten unknown world of cavernous wonders and unfathomable depth, she met Cthulhu, an old god, a god that existed before her gods. She had come to the elder god to ask for a favor, but Cthulhu initially rebuffed her, claiming that she was too trivial a being to be granted any. He threatened to take her life, but she kind of flipped his script by telling him that he was welcome to kill her, as she had no intentions of living in a world bereft of her friend. Cthulhu was taken aback. He did not understand the motivations behind this unpredictable behavior. It was too much for the god to believe that someone would do so much for their friend. He then told her that he would grant her a wish, but it would come at a great cost. He warned her that favors from gods never came without a price, and that although she may get exactly what she was seeking, it would not take time for that thing to become the most terrible of gifts. But she did not care about any of that. Gabrielle only wanted her friend back, and for everything to become as it once was. Soon she got transported to her city. She was expecting a war, injured people trying to flee to safety, death and destruction, but she found none of that there. Instead, everything was normal, just as it was during peace times. Joxer was there, telling tales so magnificent that they were nigh unbelievable. Nevertheless, when he started talking about a certain warrior woman, Gabrielle understood who he was referencing, and without any delay, Gabrielle saw Xena entering the bar they were all present at. Gabrielle flung herself on her lost friend, but did not receive a very warm welcome. Following this, Xena ordered a few drinks at the bar, but the barkeep demanded money for the drinks. Big mistake. For the great offense of asking for pay, Xena, with a swing of her sword, severed the young man's wrist. Next thing we know, Gabrielle called her out, but was saved by Joxer from Xena's wrath. Turns out, Xena was rolling with 3 henchmen, Joxer's brother Jet, a man, and another woman. I suppose it must have gotten clear to you by now that the warrior princess was acting the way she was because she was brought back by Cthulhu, the way she was, and the way she was before turning good. And now, Gabrielle had to find a way to turn her again, or she had to find some way of stopping her, even if it meant killing Xena. Issue 2. The second issue begins with Xena and her crew, including the muscle man Gar, Joxer's brother Jet, and Xena's lovely but lethal partner in crime, Shai Mai, finding a village to raid and plunder. Gar was supposed to go in first and make an impression that would send the villagers packing. Jet would follow and burn the houses of those who would refuse Xena's crew. And finally, Shai Mai would go in and slaughter anyone who would resist or even think about it. But what about Xena? Well, she was just gonna kick back and enjoy the show. Meanwhile, Gabrielle came across a group of slain travelers and Joxer had deduced that this had to be the work of Xena and her crew. However, he warned her against going after Xena. It could very well become Gabrielle's end, but Gabrielle told him that there was still enough reason for her to redeem Xena, because this was her older version. This Xena, wreaking havoc on the innocent and defenseless, was not the Xena she knew. She then goes on to explain how Xena died and was brought back by Cthulhu's help. Hearing all this, Joxer found himself in a fix. He could not really believe his ears. Nevertheless, he reminded her that she should not have meddled with the natural order of things, and that she should have just left Xena buried. Meanwhile, Xena was teaching Jet a lesson for questioning one of her commands. You see, he wanted the loot, the money, but Xena was not interested in any of that. Her motto was simple: take what you like, kill whom you don't. So the concept of money never really fell into her good books, and just like that, they left this plundered village to look for another one so that they could subject it to a similar fate. But they came face to face with a knight in shining armor atop a black horse. Xena commanded her crew not to engage because this knight was hers to slay, and the two of them engaged in a fight. I mean, I'm glad this was happening because it was high time the warrior princess fought another warrior instead of beating the crap out of drunks and the weak. Swords clanged and slammed, and it wasn't before long that the warrior princess managed to make the knight taste the dirt. However, it turned out to be Ares. Of course, he was the same old god of war who also happened to have something going on for Xena. He praised her, commending her for the handiwork she had done along with her compatriots. He loved the strife she had caused, the conflicts and the suffering she had inflicted, for which she had his eternal admiration. Eternal? That should mean something if a god says it. Nevertheless, Xena was never really great at words and conversations, so she asked him what the whole point of this conversation was. Well, this guy had to come up with a proposal to become the Xena, the warrior queen, and not just any queen. He wanted her to become queen of the god of war. While Xena did not accept his offer, she told him that she would think about it. I'm getting a strong feeling that Ares is about to be friend-zoned. Later that night, Xena and Shy Mai were talking. You see, they had no love for their friends, Jet and Gar. In fact, the women were just using the men so that the latter could be used as fodder when the time came. They were being kept around as sheep to be slaughtered when the enemy struck. Xena told Shy Mai how she wanted to have Ares' power so that she could quench her thirst of killing, and how she wanted the rivers to turn red with blood. Anyway, Xena sent Shy Mai to fetch some water for her, and Gabrielle, who was keeping an eye on Xena from a distance, snuck behind Xena and knocked her unconscious. You would not believe what transpired next. Well, Gabrielle slit Xena's throat, for Xena herself had taught Gabrielle that it was merciful to sometimes kill one than a million. But that did not mean that Gabby was heartless, or did not absolutely regret killing her friend, and decided that she was going to join Xena. Issue 3. Surprise, surprise. After making it seem like Gabrielle had killed Xena by slitting her throat, it is revealed at the third issue that she only knocked her friend out. Oh, and she stole all of Xena's loot. With that loot, Gabby and Joxer arrived at a village and paid off to clear the land. When Xena would wake up, she would be furious about the events from last night. Gabby knew her friend very well and deduced that when Xena and her gang would realize that they have been robbed, they would head to the closest hamlet they could find, ready to kill anybody and everybody there. But of course, Gabrielle and Joxer would already be waiting, having burned down a few houses to make it look like they plundered the village just as Xena did. So you could say that Gabrielle was setting up her resume to join Xena as an equal. She even dyed her hair to look the part. As for Joxer, he was only supposed to hide when Xena arrived. It wasn't too long before Xena and her crew arrived at the scene. Jet thought that they took the wrong path and reached the same village they had attacked yesterday, but Xena corrected him. Well, sort of, by saying that someone else had beaten them to this village. Gabrielle, in her dark warrior attire, was waiting for Xena. After an initial standoff, the two warrior women engaged in battle. Xena had hugely underestimated her opponent, and it was going to cost her. Xena threw her chakram at the opponent, but found herself absolutely shocked to see that the weapon was stopped with little to no effort. Xena was surprised to find out that she was not the only one who knew how to use a chakram, at least in this part of the world. But Xena recognized her opponent from the bar in the first issue, to which Gabrielle said that the woman who was giving Xena a lip at the bar was Gabrielle's twin sister. Gabrielle then went on to introduce herself as EVL, albeit after a stammer because she was about to give away her real name. Now, Gabrielle's plan worked perfectly well because Xena herself offered EVL a spot in her crew. And anyway, her crew was rather incompetent. They could not even guard a simple campsite and keep it from getting jumped and looted, so she could use all the able hands she could. Of course, EVL agreed, but with a clause. And this is what she had to say. Robbing peasants and trashing villagers always get me a little hot under the collar, if you catch my drift. I needed some way to work off the excess adrenaline. Quite simply, I need a man. She was hinting towards Jet. Xena offered her Gar, who was more muscular, but EVL said she liked them a little scrawny. EVL took her newfound bow to one of the empty houses for the village, and guess what? Joxer was waiting there to greet his twin brother with a punch. After knocking Jet out, Joxer stole his clothes and assumed his personality. Later, they came across a caravan guarded and escorted by Magistrate Azazel's most loyal and elite guards. And what did this caravan contain? Well, gold and dinars for an entire army. EVL convinced Xena to go with her and ambush the perimeter guards from the south, while the rest attack from another direction. Once the two women were alone, EVL tried reminding Xena about her days when the latter sacrificed herself and gave up the divine light to save Gabrielle. Xena could not process the information and was perplexed when a guard knocked her out. Gabrielle did the same to him before bringing Xena back to the crew. EVL and Jet, who was actually Joxer, convinced Xena that EVL saved her. But that was not all. EVL had bigger plans with Xena, so she fooled her into believing that becoming the queen of the god of war was beneath her, and instead, she should become the goddess of war, by first marrying Ares and then killing him. The prospect was too lucrative for Xena to ignore, an offer she could not refuse, if you will. Issue 4. Soon enough, the bride's side reached Olympus for the wedding, but Xena was looking forward to more than just marriage. Xena could not really get the time to ask EVL about the exact plan to execute her future husband, but we learn that the real reason why Gabrielle proposed the marriage was that she needed access to the Olympian library, which housed the secrets to making Xena good again. However, it turned out that Shy Mai was listening to the conversation of Gabrielle and Joxer the whole time, so Gar and Shy Mai came in and killed Joxer before attacking Gabrielle. Xena came in and took Gabrielle's side. In fact, Xena even killed the muscle man Gar. Unfortunately, when Shy Mai attacked Xena, Gabrielle took the hit and died, but not before requesting Xena to return to the side of good and to mend her ways. After her death, Gabrielle went to Cthulon, who initially showed his frustration over what Gabrielle had done, but then let her go when he realized that his eternal hate was not worth it. And just like that, everything came back to normal. But Xena's memories from her past still haunted her. So that was all in this rather nice story of Dark Xena. We've got plenty of videos on Xena and her various versions and adventures. Do check them out. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one. Be safe. Thanks, everyone.